Anthony Smith. There he is. Great to talk to you, Anthony. I appreciate the time.
How you doing, Ariel?
It's really good to have you back on the show. I'm doing very well, and I didn't expect to be talking to you, 8 days or 9 days after 235 about your next fight that's already booked. Could you tell us how this all came about? When were you first approached about fighting Gustafsson in Stockholm on June 1st?
Tuesday. Tuesday.
Okay.
And from what I understand, it was offered earlier than that, but Jim waited a day or so. And here we are. Time to go again, I suppose.
And Jim being your manager, Jim Walter, so I
Yeah.
heard it was around Monday or so, so I guess he gave you some time to digest what happened in Las Vegas. What was your reaction when you already got your next booking? I mean, were you expecting that so soon?
No, no, I didn't want to. I didn't want to fight that soon. But again, man, I mean everything that I say, and I don't turn down fights. And I suppose after this one, I'll probably have to change my number so that they can't call. But I'm just not a fan of turning down opportunities. I'm still processing the John Jones fight, but I guess there's no better way to get it behind me than to just move forward, I guess.
In a perfect world, when did you want to return?
January.
Oh, wow. You wanted to take the whole year off.
Yeah.
How come?
I've been in training camp 40 of the last 60 weeks, and this will be my sixth fight in 15 months. And I don't know, man. I miss my family, and like I do other shit, and I don't know. I just wanted a break, but this is what I do. It's the only thing I know how to do. It's what I'm best at, and I still have that fire in my stomach after the John fight. I've never had a performance where I didn't feel like I left everything in there. Obviously, I've had losses, but I never felt like it was for lack of performance. You make mistakes and you get caught, or it just doesn't go your way. But I just feel like I have a lot left to give, and I don't feel like like leading up to the fight, I always tend to get a little bit, I don't know, cranky or edgy, or and that's just how it goes. And then you fight and you got to take all that out, all that extra anxiety or frustration or whatever you have left in you. You kind of burn that in the fight, and I don't feel like I did, and I still have it.
Did the UFC tell you or your manager why they really wanted you, despite the fact that you wanted some time off, you just fought, why they really wanted you for this date, this fight?
No, I didn't ask.
Okay.
I just, they offered the fight, and Gustafsson's a guy that I always want. He's probably the only guy that I would have stayed for. I seen Blachowicz, wanting to fight on Twitter, and I just I didn't even register it. Like wasn't even anything that interested me. It just, I want to fight Gus, and I think that's the only fight that would have kept me around for a while, and I think the UFC knows that.
And so, just from afar here, speaking to you about it for the first time, and hearing what you have to say, and just sort of feeling your demeanor, it doesn't feel, at least right now, and I know it's very fresh, that you're overly enthused about this. Like, you don't seem, I talk to a lot of people who just accepted a big fight, and they're sort of, beaming. You're not giving off that vibe, and I, quite frankly, very much understand it. Could you describe what's going through your body right now on this Monday? Again, like I said, just 9 days after you lost the title fight.
I think in a few weeks, I'll feel a lot better about it, and excited about the next step. But I'm still processing the John fight. I'm not a good loser, and it's really frustrating, and it's been driving me crazy. And I'm not excited to have to leave my family again. This whole game is about sacrifices, and it's about doing things that you don't want to do. But it's real easy for all these idiots on the internet to talk about how badass they are taking fights when their gym is 20 minutes from their fucking house. Mine's in Denver, and that's how I have to do it. And it's a sacrifice, but I'm not necessarily real excited to spend another 7 or 8 weeks away from my kids.
Have you considered moving your family to Denver?
No, man, it took me a long time to get to a position where I could get my kids in the school district that we're in, and I had to do that before they started school. So, you know, I didn't have a bunch of super close friends that I grew up with from kindergarten all the way through high school, and you know, I don't know, it would be temporary anyways. You know, if we moved there, it'd just be until my career was over, and then we'd move back. And I don't want to move them schools twice and have them be the new kid in school twice, and I don't know, it's just tough, you know. So I'll make the sacrifice and I'll do it, but I don't want to put that on them because of what I'm doing.
Have you watched the Jones fight yet?
Yeah, 9 times.
9 times. Wow. What do you see when why didn't it go your way? What went wrong in that fight? What are you learning from it as you're watching it?
That my approach was just bad, you know. John does. I'm kind of a counter striker, you know. Like I do press forward and I push the action, but a lot of my attacks are off of counters, and John doesn't really throw combos. So that was the one thing that I keep picking up, is that I just couldn't adjust to that, you know. And for whatever reason, I just couldn't pull the trigger. And, you know, I'm usually pretty good at just saying fuck it and going, but I just, for whatever reason, you know, I was just overthinking it, and just, I don't know. It's really frustrating to watch, and it almost makes it worse the more I watch it. Just kind of just kept thinking, like, what the hell are you doing? You know, like I'm the guy, like, I'll go out on my sword if I have to. It wasn't for fear of what I was going to run into. That doesn't bother me at all. It just, I don't know. I don't know. I can't figure it out.
First pay-per-view main event for you, title fight. In hindsight, do you think the moment got to you?
No, I don't think so. All the way through the entire fight week, I felt good. It felt like a normal fight. Even when we got in the octagon, I felt really, really good. You know, the warm-up was really good. I was confident. My head was in the right spot. I just think my approach sucked. You know, I didn't do anything that we were planning on doing. And honestly, I know that it sounds like I'm just putting it all on me, but a lot of that's John. I mean, he's good. He's everything that everyone said that he was. And he's everything that I expected. I expected to do more. And, you know, he was just hard to counter. He was hard. His variance was really high. He never gave any reads or tells. Everything kind of looked the same. You know, and regardless of what anybody says, it's hard to dodge a bullet and then try to counter it, you know? So you got to be defensive and cover it first. And by the time it was time to counter it, he was already back in position. You know, he did a really good job of never really being out of position. The first round, I think he thought he was just going to kind of roll over me, and he got a little wild, and then Greg Jackson reeled him back in. You know, that's something that gets missed a little bit with John too. Not only is he a great athlete, but he's coached really, really well. So, you know, something I noticed while we were in there, that if Greg or Wink weren't talking, John wasn't doing anything. You know, he's very receptive to those guys, and he's like a robot, you know, like they call out the command and he reacts. So definitely hats off to their team and to John, but I definitely think that a lot of it was the lack of what I did, not just what John did.
How much did the illegal knee hurt you?
There we go, teeing me up to make an excuse.
Okay, so stop right there. I don't want you to make any excuses. I think I've already said it publicly. I would have called off the fight then. A. B, I feel like the game let you down in that regard, because here you are being applauded for being honorable, for being a warrior, for not taking the DQ. That knee sounded...
Well, hold on.
Okay.
That's the part that pisses me off.
That's what pisses me off
like
too.
This world is so crazy. Like I don't need a pat on the back for doing the right thing. And I like it's like when you see people like, oh my God, look how good of a dad he is. You're supposed to be involved in your children's life. Like you're supposed to take care of your kids. You're supposed to love your wife. You're supposed to do all those things, and you're supposed to do the right thing when it comes down to not taking the coward's way out. And I don't need a pat on the back for that. That's why I haven't talked about it, because I just think I did the right thing. And there was never an opportunity for me to make a choice to not continue. Honest to God, the only thing I asked the referee was how much time was on the clock. That's all I cared about. I didn't know how much time was left, and that's what I needed to know. And he wouldn't even tell me that. So, I just, there was never an option. I was more pissed off that I took the knee, because I was stuck on the bottom for like 2.5 or 3 minutes trying to get up without taking a knee, and I took it anyways. So then I was kind of chewing my own ass, like, well, that's what you get for being a pussy. Like, you should have just stood up, taken the knee if it came, and then got back to your feet. But, you know, it was almost like I kind of felt like I just punished myself. Like, I guess that's what you get for hanging out, trying to be slick, you know?
Why didn't you get, an update on how much time was left? Why didn't he tell you?
I don't know. I just kept asking. You know, the doctor came in and he said he wanted to know what day it was. And it wasn't that I didn't know what day it was. It was just, that's such a stupid question. Like, I'm standing across the octagon from arguably one of the greatest of all time in the middle of a fist fight on a Saturday night, in the biggest moment of my whole life, and you're trying to talk to me about what fucking day it is. Like, it's not even a question that registers with you when they ask you. It's not that you don't know it. It's that your brain isn't prepared to answer those kind of questions in that moment. And then he went out of there, and I was just annoyed, and I was just ready to get going. I just needed to know how much time was on the clock. Because honestly, I would have taken a minute. Like, had we had, I don't know, 2.5 minutes left in the round, like, I would have taken a little bit longer. I would have waited,
sure,
and cleared my head a little bit. But if it was like 10 seconds, then whatever, we'll just finish the round and I'll go sit down. So that's all I wanted to know. It had nothing to do with I just wanted to know how much time was left.
So here's what bothers me about the situation. To me, it sounded like a ball hitting an aluminum bat. And what if you really couldn't stand, if you couldn't see, if you were truly hurt to the point where you were concussed, you were knocked out? Everyone would have ripped you, right? They would have said you were a coward, you were a weasel, etc. That's the rule. You can't land an illegal knee. So that's why I feel like the game let you down. In no other sport other than combat sports is it on the athlete who's been wronged to decide whether or not he can continue. And I made the analogy of the NFC Championship game. I know it's not apples to apples, but the Saints and Rams, right? There's that pass interference play. Well, it's not on the Saints to say, wait a second, I've been roughed up here. It's on the referee to decide. So to me, it should be on them to decide whether or not you can continue. And if they say you can't, then you can't. It's so unfair for you to be put in that position and decide. It's not like you're not the guy who's looking for the easy way out, but they're literally all staring at you and saying, can you continue? And if you do, you're a warrior. Well, guess what? Warrior doesn't send your kids to school or put food on the table. You're just trying to go out there and do your job. And now you've just been precluded from doing your job because you've just been seriously hurt illegally, and maybe even twice in the same round. That's what bothers me. So that's what I wasn't setting you up to make an excuse. I feel for you in that position because you were damned if you do and damned if you don't.
Yeah, I didn't have enough time to really process all that. It was really, I just wanted to get to my feet, like it was a hard knee. You know what I mean? It was a hard knee, but I got a pretty hard head. And once once the cobwebs were cleared, I was ready to go. It wasn't that I couldn't fight. The question is, was I as good mentally after the knee as I was before? I mean, no. It's a fight, like, had my hand come up, that was a totally legal knee, and I'd have been in the same position. So, I just don't want that to be the narrative. It's the same thing with the PD thing and the knee, and it's all bullshit to me. I'm more mad that I didn't win the world title. I would have never ever have taken a title like that. Like, I would have never felt like the champion. I would have never. In my head, there was still time on the clock, and I still had a round to go. I wasn't ready to give it up,
And so when you're watching this fight over and over again, is there any point where you're like, man, I shouldn't have continued, or you have no regrets about that decision?
No, I don't. No regrets, man. It happened the way that it happened, and it is what it is, and I'll figure out a way to deal with it. But as far as continuing and going to the fifth round and finishing the fight, and I wouldn't say I'm happy with it, but I have no regrets, man. I didn't really have like people keep saying like that I made the decision. There was never a decision. It was just it wasn't like, well, should I continue? Should I not? Should I, it's just, let's just fight. Let's just go.
Okay. By the way, why have you watched it so many times in the span of 9 days? Is that typical for you after a loss?
No, I got wins and losses that I've never watched again.
Wow.
I don't know. I can't shake this one. A lot of it's because I didn't perform, and I just don't know why. Like, I'm not always saying that I perform the best, because I got a lot of ugly fights, and that's just how I fight. But I've just never not performed in general. Like I that's one thing that I've always been really proud of. Everyone can say, like, Anthony Smith always shows up, and I didn't, and it's just driving me crazy.
Considering how you're feeling, and considering that you said that you wanted, to come back in January, are you worried about this camp? Like, are you dreading it? Are you worried that you won't be in the right mental space as you travel to Sweden to fight one of the best fighters in the world?
No, not at all, man. I'm ready to get this. I'm ready to wipe this loss out of my mind right now. That's so. I knew that. I knew that it was going to take a few more weeks, but I know that, if I would have turned down the Gustafsson fight and someone else would have got it in 2 weeks, I would have regretted that. Like, I know that in a couple weeks I'll be okay, and I'll be ready to get back on the horse, and I'll be, I would have been excited about having a fight and ready to redeem myself and get that monkey off my back and just get back to work. I just knew it was going to take a couple weeks, so I'm not necessarily super pumped about it like this second, but in a couple weeks, once all this other stuff clears up in my head a little bit, I'll be ready to roll.
How does your wife feel about it?
She's actually the one that made the decision.
Really?
I've been on this weird, like, kind of weird schedule, like rotation. So that the last 3 years I fought like at the end of the summer. So I've trained through the entire summer. And then I'm, like, we do a lot of outdoor stuff here and camp and fish and just spend a lot of time outside. So I've missed a lot of that the last 2 or 3 years. So then, I can fight at the beginning of the summer, and then I can take the rest of the year off. So I'll be able to enjoy all of June, all of July, all of August, going into September. So, and that was the one holdup, was I just wasn't ready to leave. I got about 5 weeks or 4 weeks at home, and that just wasn't enough for me, and she understands that, and she knows that call me a pussy, I'm homesick,
Yeah.
It sucks. And, she suggested, like, maybe we just grind one more time, and then you just take off the rest of the year. And once she was kind of on board, and I wasn't even really considering it at first, but once she was on board and supportive, and she was willing to make the sacrifice as well, we kind of looked at the schedule and figured out what camp would look like, and she was in.
Listen, I admire your honesty. I get homesick when I have to leave for 1 day, so I can't imagine, having to be gone for 3 months. And you don't go home in the middle of camp, right? You stay there the entire time?
No, I come home every weekend.
Oh, okay. Well, that's that's better than nothing.
Yeah, so I get home like 11:30 Friday night, and then I leave Monday morning at 6.
Wow. And you're doing that for like 7 or so weeks? How long are you doing that for?
Yeah, I've done that every single weekend of every camp I've had since I've been with Mark Montoya. I've never missed a weekend. Wow.
That is unbelievable. And not just the fact that you have to do that every time. That must be tiring in its own right.
Yeah, it can get like that, but I think that I'm missing, like missing that weekend, that following week. There's no way that I'd be focused in camp, because I'd just be pissed off that I didn't go home. So I think that mentally it would mess with me more if I didn't do it. But I mean, I'm used to it by now. I've been doing it for 2.5 years.
Right.
So I can pretty much tell you all the cool places to go in damn near every airport around. So that's cool.
Have you ever felt this way, a week or so after a fight before, or do you feel like because of how big this, you were training your whole life for this, and not to say that you won't get this opportunity again. You are still very young in this sport. You're still very young in the game. But have you ever has it ever lingered for this long? And not to say that it's even been that long, but here we are 9 days later. Is this all foreign to you?
No, no, I'm a really bad loser. I'm really hard on myself, and it's not, like I've always said, it's not about me. I, rewatching the fight, I keep seeing Usman, like that's what happened. Like that fight was right before mine, so I keep seeing Usman, standing in there with his daughter, just like realizing his dreams, and I just let everybody down. Everyone put so much time into me, and there was just so many people that were supportive, and my kids deserve that. They sacrifice a lot. I'm gone a lot. My family deserves it. And it just didn't. I'm just heartbroken. That's what it comes down to. Like, I mean, it's disappointing and whatever, but yeah, I'm just really heartbroken that I let everybody down. I have so many friends and supporters, and there was so many people in Vegas, and I don't know. I just fucked up. I just let everyone down. So this one definitely hurts more than any of the other ones. But I don't take losing very well, and it's not really about me. It's just about the people that care and that just believe in me. That especially this fight. I mean, there was so many haters and people that were saying I was going to get walked through, and I didn't deserve to be there. Like, and all my supporters stick up for me, because I don't really deal with this shit. I don't really care, but it hurts everyone else's feelings, the people that support me, and I let those people down, and that's the worst part. I let Mark down, I let Scott down. Jim put so much work and time into my career, and I let him down. And I don't know, man. That's the hardest part. It's just everyone else is sad, and that kills me.
I haven't talked to all those people, but something tells me if I did today, next week, next month, they would all tell me that you didn't let them down. We need more people like you in this game, Anthony. You're a real representation of what makes MMA so great. So hopefully, you take some time to deal with this, and quite honestly, I feel bad bothering you with all these questions. You certainly deserve all the time that you need. You fought a great fight. You went the distance with arguably the greatest of all time. Nothing to be ashamed about, in my opinion. So you're a class act, my man. I hope that this training camp goes smoothly. You get that fight out of the way, and then you get to enjoy your time with your family. You certainly deserve it. Always appreciate you coming on. Like I said, we need more people like you in this game, and it's really an honor and a privilege and a pleasure to have you on the show so many times over the past year. So it's really great.
Thanks a lot, man. Here in a couple weeks, once I get out of my feelings, I'll come back on and we can have a funner conversation.
No problem. I appreciate it, Anthony. Thank you so much.
Take care, brother.